Saudi Arabia just came out with huge news from Davos that they're open to discussions in accepting other forms of currency rather than the US petrodollar to buy oil. Welcome to Everyman Prepping. That's what we're going to talk about in an article we're going to review and what this means by Saudi Arabia's decision, how this is going to lead to basically the end of the petrodollar, in my opinion. Basically it's going to kill the petrodollar, the value of the dollar, and cause us huge financial harm here. We're also going to talk about some theories people have about how this will never happen, the U.S. won't let it happen, and Saudi Arabia can't let it happen. We're going to debunk some of those theories and go through why. Before we get into that, though, please like, subscribe, and share. It really helps the channel out. And for those that are paying attention, I'm this close to the 1,000 mark. And if you're looking to help a brother out, please smash that subscribe button. But first and foremost, let's get on to something much more important. Here, let's get to that article. Much more important. So we see here that Saudi Arabia says they are open to settle trade in other currencies. Saudi Arabia is open to discussions about trade in currencies other than the dollar, according to the kingdom's finance minister. He says, quote, "There are no issues with discussing how we settle our trade arrangements, whether it's US dollars, whether it's the euro, or even it's in the Saudi rial. So maybe they'll use their own currency. We're open to everything," he's saying basically. The world's largest oil exporter, which has maintained a currency pegged to the US dollar for decades, is seeking to strengthen its relations with crucial trade partners, including China. We'll talk much more about that later, and the peg of their money to the US. During China's trip, the Xi that made it over there, they agreed, like I said, to buy oil in yuan. So Saudi Arabia's already told one country, yeah, we're going to use yours. That's China. We're going to use your money. We'll, do trade in yours. That's fine with us. And then it says here, Saudi Arabia is also working with multilateral institutions to provide support for Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, as part of the kingdom's largest to nations it deems vulnerable. It says down at the bottom, we find even oil and derivatives support their injured needs. That's in Pakistan. So what we have here is Saudi Arabia saying, we're open. They see the dollar's dying. If it's being inflated away, it's becoming worthless, and they don't want to be tied to it anymore. They want to open up to trade partners and expand who they take either money from or their currency or exchange rates, because they see that doing business on the dollar is not going to be beneficial to them. That's why they made the deal with China, which is part of BRICS, as we all know, and they're starting. China and Russia are getting together to do that BRICS reserve currency backed by gold. And Saudi Arabia, they're not stupid over there. They know that a gold-backed currency is going to be much more valuable than the United States nothing-backed currency. Backed by the power of the United States military and government. They see that on the decline, so they're looking to jump ship. They're going to get away from that petrodollar. The weaknesses that it has, and they're going to go to the nice, new, bright, shiny, ship of the BRICS. And those other countries I pointed out, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, they're all looking to join BRICS as well. There's many countries out there, I've talked about in the past, looking to join BRICS and get onto that new reserve currency, which will cause, like I said, the death of the dollar. So Saudi Arabia is no longer in fear of having to use the petrodollar, being tied to it. They're basically in the open saying, hey, come talk to us. We'll make a deal. It doesn't have to be in US dollars. It can be in your currency, our currency. We just want the best for us and our country. The heck with the US dollar, and it's dying. Let's see what happens, but that's basically what they're telling, and I think it's going to snowball into by, sometime this year that the dollar is going to take a really big hit. You're going to see a lot more countries going to Saudi Arabia and join on. And that leads to what I want to talk about is these theories that how Saudi Arabia can't do this. They won't do this. And one of them is the reason that Saudi Arabia agreed to the petrodollar is for military protection. The U.S. would give it military protection, investments, and all that stuff in order for them to force every country to buy oil in dollars. Well, they see what happened to the United States. In Afghanistan, basically we, turned tail and ran. The U.S. military isn't what it was before. I was in the Army many moons ago, and it's not the same Army as it was back then. Not even close. So there's no more a bully pulpit for the United States with its military. The world sees, that what happened in Afghanistan with China, how they're pushing, Taiwan around, the U.S., what they're doing in response to that in Ukraine. So no longer is this great fear, I don't think, in the world, in my opinion, that the U.S. military had before, where you had to do what the U.S. said or you're going to pay militarily. We're going to come for you. And that's the theory out there, is that people say, well, the United States, we're just going to do what they did to Libya and Gaddafi. They're going to go over there, they're use their military and make Saudi Arabia do it. And so you've got to be out of your mind. Those people got to be out of their mind and think the United States is going to take their military, go to Saudi Arabia, and eliminate the royal family over there. That will never, ever happen. Never going to happen. Not only would Saudi Arabia put up a much bigger fight than Libya did, but you're going to have Russia, China, all other nations running to the assistance of Saudi Arabia. It's not going to be close. That'll never happen. The U.S. military can never do that. Now, also along with that, people say, well, they'll use the military, they'll put pressure on Egypt, they'll put pressure on these other countries, Argentina, any of these other BRICS nations that want to start doing deals in their currency. I don't think the world cares. In my opinion, it's not going to matter anymore. So that debunks that. The other theory is the fact that Saudi Arabia's, their money is pegged to the U.S. dollar. There's 14 countries that peg their money to the U.S. dollar. In fact, let's go look at that really quick. Let me put that up here. So you have Bahrain, Belize, Cuba, Djibouti, Eritrea, Hong Kong, Jordan, Lebanon, Oman, Panama, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates. So they all peg their money to the U.S. dollar at a fixed rate. And I'll read it why, then I'll tell you why it's not going to matter this time either. So it says here that it makes sense for small nations to fix their currency to the U.S. dollar, especially if their primary source of revenue comes from the dollar, which for oil nations on that list, most of those countries that make oil, it's from the petrodollar. This peg strategy helps stabilize and secure small economies, which may otherwise be unable to withstand volatility. Conversely, large and growing economies will find it hard over time to maintain a fixed currency policy, and they'll eventually snowball into an outsized need to buy more and more U.S. dollars. So, China used to be on this list. China was pegged, and then they got off it, and they let their money float because their economy started growing, getting bigger. They don't want to be tied to the U.S. the U.S. petrodollar. And as we know, China seems to be doing great. They just released their numbers. Are they legit? I don't know. Are they making it up? But if you looked at their GDP and their growth and how they're doing, economically, China's doing great over there. Even though they had that giant pandemic thing going on, they're doing great. Saudi Arabia probably sees that. Maybe they believe all the numbers. And Saudi Arabia, I think what's going to happen, they will unpeg themselves from the U.S. dollar. They have a big economy. They're not a small country. They're not a small economy. They're huge for their involvement in oil. They don't need to rely on the U.S. dollar anymore. They can, do business in their own money and float their own money and then support their country by making people, purchase their money. They can do it when BRICS comes out with their gold-backed reserve currency. They could exchange in that, yuan, ruble, whatever. They know they don't need the U.S. dollar. They're big enough, and there's no more fear of the U.S. dollar crushing them. There's no power left in it. So that theory, I think, is debunked. That they don't need the U.S. dollar. I would say they're going to unpeg themselves. It's going to happen. Will it happen in the next few months? I don't know, but I think it'll happen this year. And once that happens, you're going to see shockwaves through our financial markets over here. And so for those two reasons there, I don't think the U.S. can stop this from happening. It's going to snowball effect. More and more countries are going to jump on. And that means if you have Federal Reserve notes, burn a hole in your pocket. This isn't financial advice, not a financial advisor, but you might want to start, spending those into things that you need or can turn into an asset, precious metal, Bitcoin if you're into crypto at all, food, copper. A lot of people liking copper right now, lead and brass, all that good stuff. You might want to do that because it's not looking good for the U.S. out there. So that's all I have right now. Please comment below what you think about this article, how you think the U.S. petrodollar is going to react to this. Will Saudi Arabia go through it? Will they just abandon the petrodollar and take many forms of currency? Do you think they'll do that? Let me know right in the comments below, and let's get a discussion going and see what we think. And that's all I have for now. So until next time, keep your ear to the ground, head on a swivel.